I didn't expect to come home to an ambush. The garage still smelled like burnt oil and pine cleaner when I pulled into the driveway. I had the envelope from the oncologist's office still sitting in the passenger seat. I hadn't even opened it. I didn't need to. I already knew what the blood work and scans would say. Stage 2 lymphoma. The word felt like gravel in my mouth. Treatable, but a long haul ahead. All I wanted in that moment was a shower, a drink, and to look my wife in the eye and say, "We've got this." But the house was too quiet. I stepped inside and something was off. Her coat was gone from the rack. The scent of her shampoo, always the first thing I noticed, was missing from the air. Then I saw it. The closet on her side of the bedroom was half empty, not just cleared out, curated. Only her things were missing. Clothes, shoes, jewelry, the wedding photo that sat on her nightstand. Gone. It wasn't packed hastily. It was methodical, planned. That's when my phone buzzed. A single text message from a new number. I didn't sign up for this. 5 words. No greeting, no explanation. Right below it, a screenshot of our joint savings account. Now at zero. $40,000. Gone. Transferred to an account I didn't recognize. I just stood there, holding my phone like it was a grenade that already went off. I didn't yell. I didn't throw it across the room. I just sat down on the edge of the bed and stared at the text. I tried to remember the last thing she said to me. It had been that morning, just before I left for my appointment. Grab eggs on your way back, if you remember. Not "I love you," not "good luck," not even a hug. I typed back 2 words, "Take care." Then I turned off the phone. I went into the kitchen, pulled a cold Miller from the back of the fridge, and walked out to the deck. The sun was setting slow and gold over the ridge behind our backyard. I sat down in the same wooden chair I built myself 3 summers ago. She used to sit across from me with a glass of wine, talking about the colors we'd paint the baby room one day. Now it was just me, the creak of the deck boards under my boots, and the weight of 40,000 missing dollars in a marriage that had just vaporized. No confrontation, no shouting match. She just left. Left when I needed her most. People talk a lot about betrayal like it's this sharp, sudden stab, like someone drives a knife into your back. But that's not what it felt like. It felt like drowning, like I was treading water for years and didn't realize someone had tied bricks to my ankles, and just now let go of the rope. And for some reason, I wasn't even angry yet. The cancer? I could fight that. Hell, I was ready to. I'd already been through worse. But this kind of quiet, calculated abandonment, this was something else entirely. I didn't move for a long time. The bottle sat half-finished in my hand, condensation dripping onto my jeans. The breeze had picked up, rustling the tall grass at the edge of the yard, but I barely noticed. Somewhere in the neighborhood, a lawnmower sputtered to life. A dog barked twice, then went quiet again. I just sat there breathing. I wasn't thinking about what to do next. I wasn't planning or reacting. I wasn't anything, really. Just a man in a folding chair with a hole in his chest and nothing to patch it with. The mail was still sitting in the box. I got up, walked to the end of the drive, and pulled it out. Water bill, a flyer for pest control, a card from the pharmacy reminding me I was due for a refill. I flipped through it like it mattered, like any of it still belonged to the version of me that woke up this morning. Back inside, the fridge hummed like it always did, a kind of low mechanical sympathy. I grabbed a slice of leftover pizza, cold and limp, and took a bite without tasting it. My jaw moved, but my mind wasn't invited. I stood at the sink, chewing, swallowed. Then I rinsed the plate and put it in the dishwasher like it was just another Tuesday. The ring on my finger caught the light. I looked at it, didn't touch it, just stared. It felt heavier than usual, not because of the metal, because of the silence wrapped around it now. I walked down the hall and opened the linen closet. Her towel was gone. The floral one she always used, the one I accidentally bleached years ago, and she refused to throw out. Missing, even the damn towel. In the bathroom, her toothbrush was missing from the cup, but the little things remained. A stray hair tie by the soap, half a bottle of that shampoo that smelled like orange blossoms. It felt surgical, like she wanted to vanish, but leave just enough behind so I'd know it wasn't a dream. I turned on the tap, splashed cold water on my face, stared at the man in the mirror. I didn't recognize him. He looked like me, sure. Same eyes, same uneven jaw, same busted knuckle from tightening bolts all week. But something behind the eyes had shorted out. No grief, no rage, just static. I dried my face, folded the towel slowly, and hung it on the hook like nothing had happened. Muscle memory took over. That part of me still worked. The rest? Numb. The house creaked in the ceiling, like it was adjusting to her absence. Or maybe it was me. Maybe I was the one settling into a new shape, something emptier. I went to the laundry room. The basket still had my shirts from last weekend. I sorted them by color, loaded the machine, added detergent, and hit start. Then I leaned against the washer as it rumbled beneath me, pressing into my spine like it might knock some feeling loose. It didn't. I didn't cry. I didn't scream into the wall. I just stood there, listening to the low churn of the wash cycle, trying to remember what normal used to feel like. It wasn't always like this. There was a time when she used to leave little notes in my lunchbox, scraps of paper folded around gas station gum, with dumb inside jokes or "I miss you already" scrawled in pink ink. I'd find them halfway through a 10-hour shift, hands grease-slicked, sweat running down my back, and suddenly the day didn't feel so heavy. I remember one Christmas, our first in the house, we didn't have enough money for a real tree, so we built one from scrap wood, wrapped it in shop lights, and stuck peppermint candy canes into the cracks. She laughed so hard she cried. I thought I'd never seen anything more beautiful than that crooked wooden tree, or the woman dancing around it barefoot in pajama pants. Now, that memory felt like it belonged to someone else. She used to ride shotgun in the truck with her feet up on the dash, singing every word to those early 2000s country songs she claimed she hated. I'd tease her for knowing the lyrics. She'd flip me off with a grin, then lean over and kiss my jaw at the stoplight. The first time I got sick, just a bad flu years ago, she stayed home, brought me Gatorade, watched reruns of King of the Hill on mute while I dozed. Said she liked the silence because it let her hear me breathe. When did that version of her start fading? Maybe it was subtle. Maybe it was just one missed dinner at a time. One "I'm working late" that stretched longer. One text left unread. It's funny how you never notice the drift until you're already on separate shores. I remember the way she used to look at me, like I was her safe place, even when I had nothing but calloused hands and a busted truck. I never wore a tie, never had a degree, but she once told me, "You're the most real thing in my life." Maybe that's the part that stings the most, because somewhere along the way, real stopped being enough. She wanted more. More what? I don't know. Fancier, richer, cleaner, less me? I think the first real crack was when I took that second job over winter, late night shifts at the tire shop just to cover the furnace repair. She said she understood, said it was temporary, but when I came home one night with salt lines frozen into my jeans, she was curled up on the couch scrolling through vacation homes in Arizona. "Just dreaming," she said, "don't read into it." But now I know better. It wasn't a dream, it was a preview. The photos, the laughter, the impromptu road trips to nowhere, they were all real. But the person behind them had already started leaving, inch by inch, smile by smile. I thought we were building a life. Turns out I was pouring concrete while she was quietly drawing exits in the blueprints. And the worst part? I'd do it all again. Every floorboard I laid by hand, every dollar I saved, every damn oil change to keep her car running smooth. I'd do it all again, just to feel those first 3 years one more time. Just to believe for a little while longer that love like that couldn't just vanish. But it did. The signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. It started with her phone. She used to leave it face up on the coffee table, screen lighting up with texts from her sister or the office. Then one day it was always flipped over, silent, guarded like a vault. She claimed it was to stay focused, said all the notifications gave her anxiety. I believed her. She started staying late at work more often, but never mentioned what projects were keeping her. "Just a deadline," she'd say, breezing past me with that same tired smile. But the scent of cologne that didn't belong to me lingered on her coat one night. Something woodsy, expensive. I asked about it. She laughed. Probably from hugging Marcy goodbye. Her husband practically bathes in that stuff. It didn't sit right, but I let it go. The gym membership came next, out of the blue. She'd always said running was boring and hated mirrors, but suddenly she was buying Lululemon leggings and waking up at 5:30 to hit spin class. I offered to go with her once. She shook her head and told me it was her time. She started drinking oat milk, cooking quinoa, listening to podcasts about personal reinvention. At first, I thought maybe she was just evolving, growing the way people do. But it felt like she was shedding her old life piece by piece, and I was part of what she wanted to leave behind. We stopped watching our favorite shows together. She said the plot lines were getting predictable. We stopped dancing in the kitchen when her playlist hit that old Taylor Swift song. She skipped it without blinking. One night I came home and found her sitting on the couch, laptop open. When I walked by, she tilted the screen away. It was subtle, barely a twitch, but my gut twisted all the same. The dinner conversations got shorter. More about her coworkers, less about us. Names I didn't recognize, stories I wasn't part of. I'd ask questions, but she'd brush them off. You wouldn't know him, or it's not important. She changed her hair. Not a new cut, just a different way of parting it, paired with a shade of lipstick I'd never seen before, one that didn't say comfortable, but available. Still, I told myself I was being paranoid, that maybe she just needed space, that maybe I was the one who had gotten too boring, too routine, too familiar. But then she stopped talking about the future. There were no more sentences that started with, next summer we should, or when we finally go to Italy. Instead, it was all now, what she wanted now, what she didn't like now, what she needed now. And I wasn't in those pictures anymore. One afternoon, I found a brochure tucked into the center console of her car. High-rise apartments in Seattle, studio layouts, sleek granite countertops, downtown skyline views. I asked her about it. She blinked like I'd caught her shoplifting. Said someone at work had passed it along. Just looking, she shrugged. And I smiled, nodded like I believed her. But deep down, I knew. She wasn't just looking. She was planning an exit, one she didn't intend to take with me. I didn't confront her. I didn't demand answers or scroll through her phone like some insecure teenager. That wasn't my style. I believe in silence, in observation, in letting people show you who they are when they think you're not looking. So I got to work, quietly. The first thing I did was dig out the manila folder from the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet. The one with all the titles, policies, and notarized stuff we never thought we'd need. I laid it all out on the dining room table. House deed, insurance forms, vehicle registrations. A roadmap of everything we owned, together or apart. Then I called my cousin Mitch, the closest thing I had to a lawyer. He left corporate law a few years back to do estate work, but he still knew his way around a courtroom. I didn't tell him everything, just enough to raise one eyebrow and get him interested. Start documenting everything, Matt, he said. Even if it's just for peace of mind, paper trails matter. So I did. I opened a new checking account under my name only at a credit union on the far side of town. Moved just enough money to not raise suspicion, but enough that I could breathe if things went south fast. Next came the garage, my sanctuary. I installed a small wall safe behind the pegboard, the kind no one would notice unless they were looking for it. Inside, I placed a flash drive with scans of every financial document I could think of. Bank statements, tax returns, even screenshots of suspicious Venmo transactions she probably thought I hadn't seen. I also stashed away the original title to my '71 Chevelle, the one she used to call a waste of driveway space. I'd never gotten around to listing her on the paperwork, thank God. In the evenings when she said she was going to yoga or having drinks with the girls, I stayed home and wrote down everything I remembered. Dates, comments, receipts, shifts in behavior. It was all time-stamped and stored in a shared drive only I had access to. I also recorded myself, not videos, just voice memos. Short bursts, narrating how I felt, what I'd noticed, what I feared. It sounds strange, I know, but hearing myself say the truth out loud made it harder to deny. It gave shape to the gut feeling I kept trying to suppress. I even went as far as to schedule a meeting with a local therapist, not because I wanted to talk. Hell, I didn't even show up. But I needed the appointment on record. I wanted everything to look above board in case this ever reached the legal level. Some nights, I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling fan, wondering how long I'd been living with a stranger. But I never let on. I kept smiling when she walked in the door. I brought home her favorite pastries from the market, like nothing was wrong. I kissed her cheek in public so she wouldn't think the ground beneath her was shifting. Because I needed time to finish preparing, time to make sure that when the floor finally gave out, I wouldn't be the one crashing through. The truth hit me on a Thursday, not with fireworks or a screaming match, just a timestamp, that's all it took. I'd gone in for my biopsy that morning. They'd stuck a needle into the base of my neck, just below the jawline, where the swelling wouldn't quit. Said it would take a few days for results, but the nurse's eyes told me more than her words ever could. I left the clinic with gauze taped to my throat and a paper bag full of prescriptions. Before pulling out of the lot, I dialed her straight to voicemail. I didn't think much of it. Left a calm message. Let's talk tonight. I need you home. It was 10:12 a.m. when I made that call. By 10:49, our joint account was drained. Not half, not a withdrawal with a note. Every single cent, $41,572.81, moved to an account I'd never seen. The notification didn't even ping on my phone. I found out by accident later that evening when I logged in to pay the electric bill. And there it was, a blank balance and a transaction history that looked like someone had pulled a ripcord. At first, I thought it was a glitch, maybe a fraud alert, maybe a banking error, but I double-checked the routing number and saw the name on the transfer. S. Wexler, her maiden name. I didn't get angry. Not then. I got still. I screenshotted everything. The exact time, the amount, the receiving account. Then I dug up the phone log and took a picture of the outgoing call. Proof she'd known what I was going through. Proof she heard the edge in my voice and still made the choice. She didn't wait to hear the diagnosis. She just ran. The kicker? She didn't even try to cover her tracks. Didn't change passwords. Didn't bother deleting her browser history. That night after she said she was exhausted and went to bed early, I opened her laptop. There it was. A Google Doc titled Exit Plan. I don't know what I expected. Maybe something cryptic, but it was all there in plain language. Budget estimates, new apartment addresses, notes about what days I'd be least aware due to treatment. There was even a list of who she planned to tell and when. I was last. No mention of support, no language of care, just numbers and logistics. Like I was a lease she couldn't get out of fast enough. I took screenshots of every page. Then I opened her email. An exchange with her mother from 2 days prior. Subject line, he'll be fine, he's tough. And right underneath another transfer confirmation. She'd already sent 10 grand to her parents for safekeeping. 10 grand we'd saved for emergencies, pulled right out of my hands while I was still waiting to find out if I'd survived the year. That was the moment I stopped wondering. There was no confusion, no gray area, no more, maybe this is just a phase. This was intentional. It was planned. She'd looked me in the face every night for the past month, knowing exactly what she was doing, and did it anyway. I didn't sleep that night, didn't even lie down. I sat at the kitchen table until the sun came up, watching the coffee pot fill, knowing I'd never look at her the same way again. Whatever we had, whatever I thought was sacred, died before I got my diagnosis. I just hadn't caught up to the funeral yet. I didn't confront her, not yet. That kind of betrayal doesn't deserve a screaming match. It deserves a clean execution. So I played along. The next morning, I made her coffee just the way she liked it. 2 sugars, splash of almond milk, no eye contact. She took the mug, mumbled a thanks, and scrolled through her phone like nothing was unraveling beneath her feet. That was fine. I wanted her relaxed, confident. While she was in the shower, I called Mitch again. Gave him the full picture this time. Dates, figures, documents, and her beautifully self-incriminating spreadsheet labeled Exit Plan. He whistled low. She's not just leaving you, he said. She's robbing you. I know. We can make this ugly for her. I plan to. We outlined a game plan. First, I had to cut her off at every access point. Credit cards, joint accounts, anything that still had both names attached. But I couldn't do it all at once. That would tip her off. I needed subtlety. Layers. I started by visiting the bank. Told them I suspected unauthorized activity and needed a freeze. I asked for statements to be mailed, not emailed, and requested a full audit going back 6 months. The manager gave me a look like he'd seen this movie before. I didn't flinch. Then I went to the title office. The house was in both our names, but the old truck, fully mine, still had the pink slip. I filed a notice of sole ownership and moved the vehicle registration into a private trust under my name. She'd never even see it coming. Back home, I kept up the routine. Took out the trash, folded her laundry, laughed at her fake stories about coworkers I now suspected didn't even exist. I nodded and smiled and let her think she was winning. But at night, I was 2 steps ahead. I set up alerts on every financial portal. I placed cameras, hidden ones, inside the garage and near my desk where I kept the hard copies. I wanted proof, not for revenge, for leverage. I wasn't just protecting myself anymore. I was laying down a minefield. She gave me a perfect opening a few days later. She left her tablet unlocked in the kitchen. Not careless, deliberate, like a test. On the screen was an apartment application, signed, submitted, and marked as pending lease approval. The place was in her name only, downtown, expensive. I took a photo of the screen and let the tablet sleep untouched. Then I made a call to the leasing office, pretending to be her brother. Just confirming she added me as an emergency contact, I said. They checked. She hadn't. Good. I also contacted the accountant who handled our taxes last year. Let him know there might be a need to revisit some records for a pending legal review. That got his attention fast. The final step was bait. I casually brought up selling the land my grandfather left me. Might help cover medical costs, I said over dinner, spearing cold chicken from the takeout box. She barely nodded, pretended to care. 2 days later, an email from a real estate agent popped up in my inbox. Not addressed to me, but to her, asking about the undeclared property interest she'd inquired about. There it was. She bit. And now I had her hook, line, and documented. I didn't knock. I just walked in and laid the folder on the table. Mitch was already there, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. He'd brought in a litigation attorney, Kara something, sharp as barbed wire and twice as cold. She didn't waste time on introductions. Just opened the folder and started sorting through the evidence like she was flipping through a deck of cards. She wired funds to her parents using marital assets, Kara said, tapping one document. Filed lease paperwork solo, and here, she attempted to gain access to a property deed that doesn't have her name on it. Her voice had no inflection, just facts. What's your endgame? I asked. She looked up. Leverage, we file and they'll fold. Good. We scheduled a sit-down. Not a trial, not yet. Just a chance for them to see what we had, laid bare all in one place. The meeting happened in a conference room on the 13th floor of a building that smelled like fresh laminate and fear. She walked in with her father and an attorney straight out of a toothpaste commercial. Perfect suit, perfect smile, dead behind the eyes. She wouldn't look at me. Her dad did. Eyes narrowed, jaw tight. I recognized the posture, the old school brand of pride that doesn't bend, just breaks in silence. Her lawyer started soft. There's been a misunderstanding. Kara cut him off like she was snapping a twig. Your client abandoned her spouse during medical treatment. She emptied a shared account without consent, diverted funds through a third party, and attempted to seize assets held in trust. The air thinned. My ex shifted in her seat. Her expression didn't crack, but her nails dug into the arms of the chair. Her attorney opened his mouth, probably to spin it again, but Kara slid a photo across the table, an image of the exit plan document. The title alone was a bullet. I'm assuming you recognize this, Kara said. Silence. Then she turned to her father. And this check, $30,000, made out to you from that same drained account. Will you be returning those funds today, or should we include you in the filing under receipt of contested property? He looked like someone had just poured cold water down his spine. We need time, her lawyer said, voice suddenly brittle. You have 48 hours, Kara replied, already gathering the papers. After that, we file. Civil court, motion for restitution, and full discovery. If you want to drag this out, we're ready. We stood. Chairs scraped the tile. I didn't speak to her. She didn't speak to me. Her eyes followed me out, though, like she was waiting for something, an apology, a break in the armor, a sign that I still cared. She didn't get one. Back at the elevator, Mitch clapped a hand on my shoulder. You handled that better than I expected. I'm done handling her, I said. For the first time in weeks, my chest didn't feel caved in. There was no victory parade, no triumphant anthem playing in my head. Just a heavy kind of quiet that felt like justice whispering back. Not revenge, just clarity. Everything I needed to know had been said, and everything she tried to bury was finally in the light. The papers arrived by courier. No knock, just a sealed envelope tucked beneath the welcome mat, as if it were an old subscription renewal instead of the end of a marriage. I didn't open it right away, just stood there barefoot on the porch, holding the envelope like it weighed more than it should. The wind kicked up a little, dry leaves scraping across the steps. The air smelled like autumn, burnt firewood and wet soil. Inside, I poured a glass of water and sat at the kitchen table. No ceremony, no dramatics, just silence and the low hum of the fridge behind me. The documents were exactly what we'd agreed on. Every asset untangled, every cent accounted for. She'd relinquished her claims, the house, the retirement account, the vehicle. The money her parents returned cleared the escrow. No trial, no drawn-out battle. Clean, surgical. There was a blank line at the bottom, waiting for my signature. I stared at it for a long time, not because I was unsure, I wasn't. That choice had been made long before the paperwork showed up. I just wanted to sit with it one last time. The last page had a typed note from her attorney. Please return within 10 business days to finalize. No handwritten note, no explanation, just a legal boundary where a life used to be. I signed it, not with hesitation, just finality. A clean signature, centered on the line, the same way I used to write her name on birthday cards, back when I still thought those little things meant something. When I dropped it back into the envelope and sealed it, I felt still, not free, not happy, but done. I drove it to the post office myself. No FedEx, no UPS pickup. I wanted the sound of it hitting the metal drop box. I wanted to feel it leave my hands. The sun was going down as I got back into my truck. I sat behind the wheel for a minute, watching the horizon bleed gold and rust. Then my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize, but I knew who it was. I heard you signed. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for how it all happened, for not being stronger. I know I hurt you. I stared at the message. She had years to say those words. And now that everything was signed, sealed, and out of her reach, she found the courage to type them into a screen. I replied with 4 words. You don't need to. Then I blocked the number. That was the last door I needed to close. Back at the house, I tossed my keys on the counter, kicked off my boots, and sat on the back steps. The air was cool, the stars just starting to break through the dusk. No music, no distractions, just the sound of wind through dry branches. And for the first time in months, no waiting for her to call, for the other shoe to drop, for a version of love that no longer existed. She was gone, and this time she could stay gone. 6 months later, I woke up without checking my phone. That was new. I'd moved out to a small cabin near Flathead Lake, nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, a porch that creaked when the wind got strong, and enough land between me and the nearest neighbor to make the silence feel earned. The mornings here are different. You don't wake up to alarms or emails or footsteps in the hallway. You wake up to the sound of wood cracking as the temperature shifts, to birds arguing outside the window. Sometimes you just wake up because the weight on your chest finally lifted overnight. The cancer's in remission, not gone forever, but quiet, like a bear that wandered off to sleep in another cave. The place came with a detached garage, barely standing when I bought it. I spent most of my weekends rebuilding it with my own hands, hammering, framing, rewiring. No blueprints, no timeline, just me, a radio, and the kind of focus that doesn't come from ambition. It comes from survival. The Chevelle sits inside now, clean and running smoother than it ever did. I kept her. Not for the nostalgia, not because I needed the reminder of the woman who once called it a rust bucket. I kept it because it's the one thing from the old life I rebuilt with zero compromise. I even adopted a mutt from the shelter, brown with one ear that never quite stands up. I named him Duke. He doesn't ask questions, doesn't push for answers. He just follows me from room to room like he's afraid I might disappear if he blinks. Some nights, I still wake up sweating, thinking she's in the other room, that she'll come walking down the hall barefoot, holding a cup of tea and a lie. But then Duke stirs at the foot of the bed, and I remember where I am and where she isn't. I don't talk about it much. Not to the folks at the mechanics shop I help out at twice a week. Not to the cashier at the co-op who always asks how my weekend went. I just nod, pay, and carry on. Because healing, I've learned, doesn't announce itself. It doesn't show up with streamers or a crowd. It's quiet. It's subtle. One less ache in the ribs when you breathe. One less memory when you drive past familiar roads. There's peace in that, not the kind you chase, the kind you grow into. I still have the voice recordings, those late-night confessions I made to my phone back when I wasn't sure I'd see the other side. I listen to them once in a while, just to remember how far I came, just to hear the man I used to be and know I didn't abandon him in the wreckage. I made it through, not perfectly, not untouched, but whole enough to begin again. So here's my question to you. What would you have done if the person you trusted most turned away when your world fell apart? Would you have forgiven them, fought back, or done what I did, rebuilt in the quiet, far from where it all burned down? Drop your thoughts below, because maybe someone else out there is sitting on their own front step, waiting for the silence to mean something more than emptiness. Maybe today is the day they start over too.